Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome back to MCubed. Today is Wednesday, Cinema Scoop Wednesday, and we have a very special guest. Friend of mine, Greg Crafts over here. Real quick, Jamie, you can mirror these things. I'm pointing the right direction now. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. This has taken us like a year and a half to figure out.
No, you still pointed the other direction, bud.
Really?
Yeah.
It shows fine on mine. Damn. Okay, y'all know what I was trying to do.
I feel you though. The Zoom orientation struggle is real. So
real, yeah. StreamYard's just introduced a little mirror thing, and I was like, I'm so happy I can actually do it.
No, turn it off. It doesn't work.
All good.
You remember?
You're pointing at
I remember when I did that.
So what?
It just mirrors you. It doesn't mirror your picture. I did that, and I was going, I am pointing the right way. And Matthew kept going, no, you're not.
Oh, that happened. I now understand what happened there. But yeah, so we have a special friend of mine, Greg. He's a SAG-AFTRA actor who just went to San Diego Comic-Con, so we can talk a little bit about Comic-Con and things of the sort. Talk about the striking, because you've been on the picket lines yourself already.
I have been on the picket line a few times, yeah. So I got to get out there more.
Beautiful. And we just got a couple other questions and things like that. And we do have a few little tidbits of news. We're going to not try to dive too far into them, but we have a little bit of news. So we'll do that. But Jamie?
We're also on Sidetrack this evening because we want to push people over to the, now I'm doing it that way, to the M3 channel. Harris, you're doing 4-5 lives a week. I really want, all your movie news. So guys, go, if you haven't already, go and subscribe to MCubed.
Yes. And before we roll that intro, Greg, you said you're not always humble when you want to talk about yourself. This is the time to not be humble at all and give people all the goodness.
All right. Well, morning, everybody. My name is Gregory Crafts, and I'm a professional actor, producer, playwright, lighting designer. I do a little bit of everything. I've been working out in Los Angeles for about 20 years now. Be 20 years in August, as a matter of fact. So almost my 20-year anniversary here. I own and operate a couple of small theatrical venues in Hollywood as my day job. But the primary hustle I'm pursuing right now is that I am pursuing 1-hour dramas in Hollywood. I took a very, very, very long detour through the Los Angeles theater scene where I, cut my teeth as a performer and as a playwright and learned how to produce theater. And I suck at the self-promotion stuff. So I do a little bit of everything. I love everything I do. And I spent, like I said, I did a long time going through working in the theater scene and building all that stuff up, and decided in about 2019 that I was like, you know what? I've been out here so long. I really want to get back and trying to get work on screen again. So I was like, 2019, I started doing a lot of ramp up, getting representation, doing work. I was like, 2020 is going to be my year. And I was like,
we all thought 2020 was going to be our year.
Yeah, so I come out of that. We get out of that. It's 2022. I'm like, got better reps, got new headshots, did the whole thing. 2023 is going to be my year, And I think the universe is telling me that I just need to stop, for the sake of all of Hollywood. I just need to stop trying to get on TV. I think that's really what's telling me. So yeah.
Timing kind of happens at its own pace. I got faith in you because you are a jack of all trades, and where most people say that and finish it off with master of none, you're a master of a good portion, if not most of them. So
I'd like to think I put my 10,000 hours in a bunch of different things. So yeah.
I almost mentioned it, but we were talking right before the stream. But like Jamie, we would walk in while like I'm producing a play, or last year, we did a play together, and I technically produced that one as well. But walk in, he's literally got 12 to like 20 other plays going on in his place that he has to focus on. Half the time he's running lights. If it's not him, it's his wife or someone else that is coming on, and usually is decent with lights. But in our show particularly, and I think a couple other shows this year, they weren't as great, which means Greg had to come in and do it all himself later, and did it perfectly, as always.
Thank you.
As always. So
all the time.
Jack of all trades and master of most.
New thing.
With all that being said, though, shall we roll the intro?
Let's do it.
if I had some nickel-plated, pearl-handed 6-shooters right now, I'd be very happy. I don't think those are legal in California though, so sorry.
What's the world coming to? Either you can't have guns on your
the Texan in me has one answer for it, and the Californian version of me has a different answer for it.
Yeah.
But hello to everyone. David's in here. Sci-Fi Quest. Laura's in here. I think we got a good evening, which means we've got more Brits over here, you know?
I love it.
But also, have you seen Stargate, Greg? Because we're big Stargate.
Oh my God, I have not seen Stargate in a very, very long time. I watched a little bit of it as a kid. And no, I don't think I could do a ball voice, unfortunately.
You could come in there and play ball too. You know, some clone that's come in after the fact or something.
Dude, I'm down for whatever at this point. Like I've been I'm starting to go around to like the effect shops and stuff like that and be like, hey, you need to slap 50 pounds of rubber and prosthetics on somebody for a role. Sure, like let's go. You know,
do you need another Doug Jones? Like,
right?
Please.
I've met Doug. I used to in my previous life, my previous corporate life before my wife and I bought our theaters. I worked for a toy company, a collectibles company, and Doug. Well, we did a lot of collectibles for Guillermo del Toro, and Doug was in there all the time with us. We also did full body digital scanning and stuff like that. And we had a division that was full body digital scanning and digital assets for films for post-production. And then we would take those scans and do product development with them. We'd do action figures, collectibles, things like that. And I worked in the collectibles division. And Doug would come by our booth at Comic-Con all the time. He'd come into the studio and get scanned and do all the other stuff, but then he'd come and be at the booth at Comic-Con. And at one point, I'm sitting in the back of our booth with Doug and Guillermo del Toro just talking about acting. And I was just like, what is this life? And then I realized that they're like, oh, they see me as the sales guy for this toy company. Like oh God, that was rough. But Doug gives great hugs. He is a legendary hugger and he gives wonderful hugs. He is a wonderfully wonderful man. Love him to death.
He's got the perfect length for it, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would think Guillermo del Toro probably gives a damn good hug too.
I think so. I did not have the pleasure. So
got the girth. So
he's got to have a teddy bear. It might have like a scary monster pop out behind his back as he hugs you, but it'd still be very great. Doug Jones will pop out behind Guillermo del Toro as Guillermo's hugging you.
Well, and that's the thing is that it's Ron Perlman too. Ron Perlman will just show up wherever Guillermo is and just be there. Like Guillermo was doing a signing. We go out front and suddenly like I'm working the security line, like keeping everybody in line at This was my life at Comic-Con before I started going as a professional actor, trying to do all the networking stuff. I'm working at this booth, and I swear to God, we're doing the signing for oh my God, why am I blanking on the name of this film? It's Pan's Labyrinth. Pan's Labyrinth, yeah. Yeah, so we did some mini busts for Pan's Labyrinth, and Guillermo signing them, and it's just Guillermo at the table, and I turn around, and I turn back around like 2 seconds later. Ron Perlman's just sitting there with him, just shooting the shit and smoking a cigar, like on the con floor, like what is this, you know? And he just appeared out of nowhere, but it was like the most natural thing for him. He just showed up, sat down, and just started hanging out, you know? So.
Just and to be that big of a guy, just to kind of sneak up and just chill, because he seems like just like the most. Yeah, I just want to sit back and hang out until either I have to act or beat the hell out of somebody, and that's like the only two things that are like get him up.
I'm not sure I'd like to annoy Ron Perlman. I think.
No. I mean, I definitely saw his. I definitely know his thoughts on studio executives at this point, but you know, I do.
I was just about to say that video is great.
Yeah, but I got to say I love the guy, and I think I loved him on Sons of Anarchy. Like that was one of my go-to shows for a very, very long time. So he's my boy. Love his work, and but it was just trippy. It was just like, yep, this is the kind of stuff that just happens at these shows, you know, random things. Yeah. So
he is Hellboy. They messed up.
He is.
Yeah, David Harbour, I think got had a good shot at it, but Ron Perlman's my guy for that. I really loved his work. So
I know they're not going to necessarily make money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just make the third one while Ron Perlman's still kicking. Like, come on.
I know. It's tough. It's tough. But, you know, that's the thing is when you're dealing with Hollywood, you're dealing with an industry that is driven on bottom lines and fear. That's why you keep seeing all these remakes and, you know, recycled and more of the same, you know, and everybody's taking these big swings and big gambles on these big IPs because it's Hollywood is an entertainment industry that is driven on risk analysis and cost benefit analysis and what's going to get shareholders the most money. It's not about art. It's about entertainment. And entertainment is a money-driven industry. Yeah.
I hope we can find an economical art, like somewhere, some happy medium eventually. Hopefully this will, these couple months or however long we're going to end up in this strike kind of position. Hopefully that'll push it towards that direction, but we'll see.
I mean, Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
No. Just with that thought that just popped out, we were kind of talking about this a little bit yesterday on our little Movie Tuesday stream, but with Barbenheimer happening, do you think that's something like both fairly expensive, but they're not like expensive in like your Marvel or DC kind of sense, some big Star Wars project, something like that? Close, not too far off, but they're not independent projects because they're big studio tentpole films. But they're like right next door in a way, you know?
Well, it's so funny that you associate something that's like not a guaranteed project, you know, as like independent. It almost gets viewed in the same category as independent film.
It's not,
you know,
because it is a tentpole.
Yeah, I mean these you know, Barbie's budget, when you factor in how much they spent on marketing, was over $300 million, and they still broke it in the first weekend. Like they made it back, and these days, people only really give a damn about the opening weekend box office because they know that the drop off is precipitous after that, you know. But you get these gigantic budgets, but and what a lot of people don't realize is that the marketing budgets are sometimes bigger than the actual production budgets, you know, to get some of these movies out. You know, they spent, I think in Barbie, it was about an even split where the whole budget came out to be about $300 million or so. But that was $150 million marketing budget. And hitting 334 like they did means that they actually made back, turned an actual profit on it. I'm sure Hollywood accounting will still show that they had a huge loss and it was tremendous failure for everybody involved. You know,
they haven't included the paint cost yet. You know.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. They haven't paid the pink tax yet. Just wait until that comes out.
So pay tax. Yeah. I wonder how much of that came out just paying Barbie though. I mean, paying Mattel. That must have cost of. Because I know a couple of people have seen it now, and I know Harris, you said you've seen it, and they've took their kids expecting a Barbie film. And the kids have come away going, "What the hell was that?" And the parents have going, "I don't know." But they must have paid Mattel a fortune.
Yeah, I mean, the licensing fees are usually around, or if I recall correctly, the industry standard somewhere around 10 to 15%. So, yeah.
That makes sense. But do you think Mattel would have put that money back into the movie just with how much? Have you seen it, Greg?
I have not seen it yet. We're going to go do our Barbenheimer experience this coming weekend, I think. So Jen and I like to go after things have been out for a little bit just to avoid I don't like dealing with crowds. Yeah. So, yeah.
Smart.
And
I'm saying an Oppenheimer is because it's a Chris Nolan film.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why that was even made in the first place. I've always thought that
I've seen a lot of articles describe him as an IP on like himself, and I like that. That makes sense. Him, Tarantino, Spielberg, Scorsese's, et cetera. They're kind of
He's built up his own brand to be like, you know, the next in the long of generational directors, you know, and that's and seriously, it's those reputations that's how movies get made. You want to know how Zack Snyder keeps getting jobs? Like, love him or hate him, J.J. Abrams. These guys have these reputations as trustworthy box office banks, and that's why they keep getting they keep getting films greenlit, and that's why they keep getting involved in stuff. Now, I don't know how much Zack's star has fallen with everything with the DCU and everything, but you know, for years and years and years and years, he's getting all these movies because he'd built up a reputation for himself as someone who can deliver. And you know, that's Hollywood Hollywood thrives on that reliability. They need to have that reliability. So, you know, for anybody who's looking to break into the industry, build yourself a reputation as someone who is a reliable person, someone who will show up on time, someone who will do the job right, someone who, you know, doesn't cause problems, stays in their lane and everything, and then is willing to learn and work your way up. And eventually you'll start getting creative opportunities, that, like that's, and it's like that in all levels of creative and collaborative arts, because it's like that with us with small theater. We don't make any money in small theater. Like that's no joke. I'm an Actors Equity member that makes no money every year because the projects that I really love to do and the projects I spend my time and effort on are all very small projects. But even still, we I have a group of people that I like to work with because I know they're reliable. They don't cause problems. We collaborate well together. There's a reason why Kevin Smith keeps working with all the same people. There's a reason why Zack Snyder keeps working with all the same people. There's a reason why Guillermo del Toro has Ron Perlman in everything he does. It's because when you find collaborators that are reliable, that are bankable, you don't want to give that up, So that is, and it's like that throughout. Hollywood, I think, is very, very tribal, in that regard.
We talk about Stargate on our channel quite a lot. But I've got a couple of people that I've been lucky enough to be able to talk to about this. And the thing that really shocked me, because I didn't know much about the film industry before I started doing this channel. And the thing that really shocked me is how much marketing and PR and the amount of research they do, and they're asked their opinion. Executives at the studios constantly asking this one quite big marketing company for their opinion and everything. Before they do anything, they have surveys and all this done to try to, well, if we announce it now, how will people react? And if we do this now, how will people? And I'm sort of like, where's the creative side of it? Where's the?
It's all risk mitigation. It's 100% risk mitigation. Yeah. This is why they have test screenings. This is why they go back and do reshoots on test screenings. And the thing is that, if you're an executive, your job depends on how well the movies that you approved perform. So, of course, when you're talking about, hundreds of millions to even billions of dollars in revenue for the company and everything, that level of pressure, of course, there's going to be a certain amount of being an extra cook in the kitchen and trying to make sure the stew comes out great. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that I think that as a result, there's a lot of stuff in Hollywood that they try to make for the widest audience possible. They try to appeal to everyone. So therefore it appeals to basically no one, or the absolute lowest common denominator, which is why we have 10 Fast and the Furious movies, big explosions, big guns, and hey, don't get me wrong. I like me a good action popcorn flick. I really enjoyed Dial of Destiny. We went and saw that last week. I enjoyed it. I was like, I have some issues with certain aspects of it, but it was a good time. And I like me, I'm a huge fan of Die Hard. We do a very Die Hard Christmas at my theater every year, musical parody of Die Hard. We're for real. Oh, it's a good time. It's a lot of fun.
That's why I like Silent Night so much.
I don't know if Bruce Willis actually sold his digital likeness for stuff, but I know that they've got enough full body scans of him that all he's got to do is sign the papers at this point, and they'd have it. They did that with Harrison Ford. Yeah. They did that with Harrison Ford, especially for everything that they did with Dial of Destiny and all the de-aging and stuff like that. And he was, as he put it, he was very well compensated for that. And James Earl Jones has signed over his voice to be for the use as Darth Vader. He's signed that over for millions of dollars. And that's great. When an actor like that can get a payday like that guarantees that their children, their grandchildren, whatever, they'll all be well taken care of. Fantastic. It's, I don't have a problem with that. The problem that I have is with when they're doing it to background actors, where they'll pay them for, $172 for 8 and get a full body scan of them and then never hire them again, because now they've got license to use their digital likeness and in perpetuity in whatever project they want. That's the direction that this is heading in very rapidly, and that's part of the reason why we're on strike.
Mm-hmm. I saw a great video last week about that, and it gave the example of if this was happening in the early 90s. Think about Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who, best friends, did a bunch of stuff together, yada, yada, yada. They were extras in Field of Dreams. Mm-hmm. If they would have signed their likeness away, we wouldn't know who Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are today.
No, that
we would have no idea.
Yeah.
Or would they have to pay royalties to somebody if they did a movie?
Yeah.
Oh my God! If you were trying to use your own likeness in your own project and you were getting sued because technically the studio owns your face,
Universal owns it, or Warner Brothers owns it.
That's messed up. That's messed up. Wow. And it wouldn't surprise me if there were things in a contract that would literally box you out of the industry, so you couldn't work on something that wasn't approved by the people that you signed your likeness over to. You know,
of course, yeah.
I mean, that's
What if they want to do? What if they want to do bloody horror movie? And think, that we don't think that's good for your brand. I'm like,
yeah.
Well,
it's like, yeah.
You mean the brand of the digital likeness where all the money goes to you guys?
Whoever owns the digital likeness, they could say, well, we don't want you to do that because we own your digital likeness. I'm like, no, it's insane. But the government could step in here. The government could do a law, and I think they should have done it years ago.
Well,
you should own your likeness.
The problem is that with the repeal of Glass-Steagall back in the 90s and all these other things that have happened, like corporations have basically been taking back more and more and more power through deregulation, and as a result, they can get away with more. Now, I'm a small business owner. I think that there's a lot of stupid regulations out there that regulate businesses that I think are a giant pain in the ass or wrong, but there are things that are allowed to happen now because of deregulation that are very anti-capitalist and very anti-competitive, where you have all these vertical integrations. I went to a panel at Comic-Con this year about what it was called The Writer's Journey, but basically was talking about what the market for screenwriters might look like after the strike. And they talked about the mini rooms. They talked about reduced show orders. They talked about record profits in spite of smaller show orders. They've talked about all the not even getting into AI. A lot of people didn't want to talk about AI at the show. A lot of people didn't. Yeah. Like I was at a visual effects panel and they were like, we talked about this they got asked about AI. They were like, we talked about this in advance. We said, we're not going to touch this topic, and they were point blank about it. And I've heard why later, and it was chilling. And I'll get into that in a second. That's a little talking out of school, but I'm in this panel and they talked about like, okay, you want to work on a show for Warner Brothers, you want to work on a show for CW, you want to work on a show for this network or that, and they put up a chart of what corporations own what businesses and the vertical integrations, not just in like media, but not just in like TV, but in like branching out into film, into podcasts, into internet content, into everything, journalism, news networks. Everybody's owned by like four, I want to say like, I think it's like 7 corporations pretty much own everything in the world. And that's, that's a lot. That's a lot of power that all this stuff was there to try and prevent. And it's very anti-competitive. Capitalism thrives on competition, and they want to talk about how profits and everything are what's are what drives the world and what drives the business, and greed is good. But it's anti-competitive when the biggest guys can shove everybody else out of the pool or drown them, and that's where we are right now, because you have if you watch coverage of the strikes on the news networks, it's all pretty biased. It's a lot of like, why are these actors, why are these writers, they're striking again, because they're not getting paid fair or whatever. You get a little bit of a slant on it, and it's because the news networks are owned by the studios.
Yeah.
And like whose point of view do you think they're going to be delivering? I mean, you could be the most liberal, TV network in the world, but when you're told that this is the story that you're running, that kind of like questions the legitimacy of a strike, or questions, like, do they really need this? In the last 15 years, we've watched the middle class actor disappear.
There's one.
Yeah, there isn't anymore. Because you had, movies are struggling, movies are failing because they keep rehashing the same old shit over and over and over again. Going like, why don't people want this anymore? You wanted it 10 minutes ago, and it's like, dude, we can't have ice cream for breakfast every day. You gotta like, you gotta switch it up.
Just Saturdays.
Yeah, just Saturdays. I mean, there's a real. I mean, I know I'm bouncing all over the place here. I'm all, but this is all. It's all an ecosystem that is in crisis at the moment, because we have, there's so many things happening that are all interconnected, and it's all been leading up to this stuff. We have, in the TV world right now, you have the stars. You've had a lot of folks who used to be movie stars or are movie stars also doing television at the moment, which, hey, great. Problem is,
even Harrison Ford.
Yeah, Harrison Ford doing Shrinking. A friend of mine, CJ Hoke, is a writer on that, and she's speaks nothing but wonderful things about everybody involved in that show. Like, I am so envious of her.
I've been wanting to watch it for so long. I just haven't sat down to do it. I need to so bad.
Yeah, well, we're in a golden age of television at the moment where, I mean, ironically, as we're talking about all this stuff, we're in a golden age of television and media at the moment where there's more stuff than ever. There's more opportunity than ever at the moment, which is true. But at the same time, we're dealing with, shorter series, shorter runs, and there's, my gosh, which angle do I attack this from first? Season length is one of the issues. Okay, it used to be that an average season of television. Let me talk about this from the writer's perspective real quick. Now, let me preface this. I am not a member of the WGA. I am a member of SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity, and I'm a member of the Dramatists Guild. So the Dramatists Guild is like the WGA, but for playwrights. Okay, so that's not and it's not a one-to-one comparison, but that's just like the Dramatists Guild does theater. Because I've been working in theater ever since I was a kid, but now I'm. And I like to think that I've built a nice career for myself within theater, and I've been working for a while now to get back working on screen again. My ultimate goal is to be doing 1-hour dramas. And while there is a lot of big stuff happening, you get all these streamers with, the big IP shows, you get the Star Wars shows, you get the Star Trek shows, you get the, oh my God, what else is really big right now? Like, there's so much.
Well, there's 2 or 3 or 4 of each one of those.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just in those alone. I mean, there's literally 4 different Star Trek series on the air right now, with one that just was recently canceled, now has its own Save the Show. The average TV season length was around 20 to 25 episodes previously. And now it's like anywhere from 6 to 10 episodes. Yeah. So, a writer's room used to be 10 people that would work on a 22, 25 episode season, with each person, with them all working together to develop the season arc. And then each member in that room getting a couple of scripts to write. Now they would get their normal salary, plus they would get a script bonus every time they wrote an episode. And that script bonus was not small. It was like a 5-figure bonus that they would get for being the writer on a script. And that is how, when you got those jobs, when you got staffed up and you were a writer on a show, that is how you were making your living, was that you'd work 30, 40, 50 weeks a year, or 30 or 40 weeks a year on the show, and make your salary plus bonuses every time you were the lead writer on a script. Now the average, and that was about 10 writers. Now with show orders of anywhere from 6 to 10 episodes, they've gone from writers' rooms to what they call mini rooms, a showrunner and maybe 3 writers, and those, the salary is reduced. You're working maybe 3 to 10 weeks as opposed to 30 or 40 weeks of the year. So you're spending the rest of the year hustling for work. But that's when shows aren't hiring 10 writers, when they're only hiring 3 writers, that's a 70% loss of the job market. That's a very and on top of that, once again, when Hollywood's got their favorites, when they've got their showrunners that they like, when they've got their Ryan Murphys, when they've got their Shonda Rhimeses, when they've got their people with these insane overall deals, they're J.J. Abrams. These are the guys who get the top show running things and are show running opportunities and get to build their universes and everything else. And while there are more shows out there, there's less opportunity, and there's less opportunity for career advancement beyond being a staff writer, because those, if you thought that there were fewer writer opportunities, there's fewer showrunner opportunities too, because a lot of these things keep going to the same people. So it's, that's another big issue that they're trying to deal with, is the lack of upward mobility in a career path. Like, at one point, the ladder got pulled up behind a generation of people. And now it's very difficult to find a path forward. So again, that's another big reason for the strike. Mini rooms is one of the biggest reasons. And then we're talking, and on top of that, residuals. And on top of that, residuals on streaming, I remember the strike in 2007, 2008. I was, and I when I first got out here, SAG was on the commercial strike in 2003. Like that. So I've seen my fair share of strikes. We done fucked up when we did not negotiate streaming when we had the chance, when we didn't negotiate better streaming when we had the chance, when we let the studios say, oh, this is unproven technology, we don't know how this is going to work, we don't know this, we don't know that. They're recording billions and billions and billions of dollars in record profits. Now, gross, not net. I understand the difference here, but they're recording ridiculous amounts of gross profits and giving shareholders dividends, which also I understand. That's part of the game. Like, that's literally like an important part of capitalism, is making sure that your shareholders get paid, because otherwise they won't invest in you, in which case, the cycle of money stops and the whole machine seizes up and crashes. Can't have that. Can't have that. Like, I understand. At the same time, though, don't fucking come and report record profits out of one side of your mouth to the shareholders and be, tossing out executive bonuses and everything else, and come to the unions and plead poverty, when what we're asking for is a percentage of a percentage of a percentage of what the gross is, for the work that we do, for the work that we did. This is not right. This is not right. When you've got these top executives making, 7, 8, 9 figures a year in their executive compensation packages, with their investments, with their stock, with everything else, when they get all this stuff, when these guys are cruising around on mega yachts and just saying, oh, it's so unrealistic for the writers to demand more, go fuck yourself. Like, seriously. Yeah. I get very angry about this, because these are good, hardworking people just trying to build an opportunity for themselves and do something that they're passionate about and care about. Like, isn't that the American dream, to be able to make a living and to do what we love?
Definition of. And it used to be such a great place to go do it. Like, what you're saying, the middle class has disappeared, and kind of a lot of ways everywhere, but particularly in this industry, and it's just easy to see. And
and just to touch on that super fast, just to illustrate the point, you get these film actors coming in being leads on TV shows. Great, they get a big payday, but they get such a big payday that the rest of the budget is non-existent. So everybody else on the show winds up working for scale. Even guest stars, multi-episode guest stars, work for scale. There's no room in the budget to give somebody, to pay them more based on their experience, based on whatever. Scale is as good as you get. And scale, for those of you not in the industry, is literally the minimum per tier. The minimum rate per tier. So that like they've allocated all this star power, though, because now it's like, oh my God, Lawrence Fishburne on doing a TV show, Harrison Ford doing a TV show, all these these movie actors coming, and I'm not mad at that. Everybody's got to work. Everybody's got to eat, and you want to scratch your creativity, go for it. But we have to look at what the numbers say, and the numbers say that this is hurting the little guy. And that's what these strikes are about. My brother, years and years ago, during the previous strike, my brother calls me up and he's like, "Why are you guys striking?" He's against unions in general, and I understand there are people who are out there that are like that, and that's fine. You can be wrong. That's okay. But he's like, what, does Tom Cruise need another private island? Is that why you guys are striking? I'm like, yeah, because he didn't get a private island is why I'm going out walking in 110-degree heat in the sun, doing laps around NBC Universal. Yeah, because I give a fuck about his private island. Yeah, that's
carrying signs, no shade, nothing.
Exactly.
That's 1%, though, is it? It's never been about the 1%. It's about all the
everybody else.
Don't know their name. It's about
it's about everybody else. It's about everybody else who and the thing is, it's like, this industry is hard enough as it is. We have 87% of the membership of SAG-AFTRA doesn't qualify for the minimum for health insurance. That's $26,000 a year. You don't make $26,000 a year as a professional actor. 87% of the union doesn't qualify, doesn't make that, so they can't qualify for health insurance. And that's because, it used to be that if you got a guest star, your residuals, your salary plus your residuals would be enough to cover that. One guest star could do that for you, and now I think it's very telling when you have stars of shows going out and showing their residuals, and they're getting pennies for quarterly unlimited streaming use, and of their shows, they're getting pennies for unlimited streaming for 90 days. Like, that's that if that's not indicative of what the big problems here are, I don't know what is. So.
But I mean, as a writer, though, if you're not getting paid,
Mm-hmm.
are you putting in your best work, or even worse, are the best writers going elsewhere? Maybe even doing something else.
I know a lot of TV writers who have pivoted to comic books. That's why a lot of them were at Comic-Con. I got a couple of friends of mine who are TV writers who are writing for Marvel right now, who are writing for DC. Like they're, it's the comic book division is not a struck company, so they can work in that, but and everybody's got to make their money. But the thing is that this industry, you can't phone it in. You can't phone it in, because if you get a reputation for phoning it in, you'll never work again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is that because this industry is so competitive, because everything is so cutthroat, because the studios know and rely on the fact that if you don't give your A game for this shit pay, they can get somebody else to do it. They'll get rid of you and bring in somebody else.
And most of the time, somebody cheaper.
Yeah. You have to keep giving your best. You have to keep putting out your A game, in spite of the indignities of these ridiculously low, paychecks, and in spite of everything else, because that if this is your opportunity, and you're chasing that brass ring, like you got to eat some shit on the way up the mountain here. That's so many metaphors. Sorry, but you got to keep.
I'm texting. I got you.
Yeah, you know what's up. So we gotta. You can't just phone it in. Unfortunately, everybody's got to give their A game, or you get replaced, because it's that easy. Your reputation can take decades to build and only seconds to ruin.
I think a lot of people. Sorry, Harris. I think a lot of people would argue that a lot of the writing, particularly on some streaming shows, hasn't been as good as it used to be.
Because I would argue. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had plenty of issues with Book of Boba Fett. Like Dances with Banthas was quite the experience. But I would argue that that's actually due to the overburdening of the writers and the reduced workloads, the reduced number of writers and collaborators, in the room, the lack of collaborative talent. I feel like that was, peak like mini rooms and stuff like that, where you had fewer people contributing and fewer people working together, and they still had, you had 3 or 4 people trying to turn out, a whole, what was it, 6-8 episodes. That's a lot of work and a lot of pressure, especially when one of them's the showrunner, who's also basically doing executive producer duties. In addition to dealing with all the writers, I feel like that if you feel like that the quality of work is suffering, it's because of fewer collaborators and because of greater workload and greater expectations. You can't constantly be running at 100%. So
I saw this that one of the things they used to do is they would write almost up to filming. So I know on Star Trek, I was watching one of the great scenes. Sometimes we'd be typing away in the morning, and we'd still be bouncing ideas off each other and things. But nowadays, they sort of want the script for streaming shows anyway. They want the script done and locked down and agreed by executives before they start filming, and then they film. And I've always thought that's because then if something doesn't work on screen, you're kind of stuck.
Well, they also don't want to pay to have a writer on set.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And because that's another cut cost right there, is not paying to have a writer on set. And I think that there's a lot of. I was working background on a movie in 2008 during the writer's strike, and I literally watched Sean William Scott and Paul Rudd, like the directors tell them, "Oh, just improvise. We can't write anything. We can't do rewrites right now. So if it's not working, just riff. And there's. I think there's always a room for a healthy amount of improvisation, but when you don't have a writer there on set to fix something that's not working, and you have to rely on improv, like that's
to do improv correctly, you have to have good context, especially on set for something like that. You have to have the context of the scene, the character, the environment that both of those things are in, all that, and that allows you to be able to improvise like that. Without that, good luck, Chuck. And
especially on like a sci-fi show where you have all the technobabble and everything else, that gets even crazier. Now, I mean, everybody has their favorite story about, oh my God, this improvised moment that was just so hilarious and so brilliant. For that 2-second scrap of brilliance, can you imagine the number of takes they left on the floor? You know?
Yeah.
And the amount of shit that didn't work, you know?
Apparently that's working with Ryan Reynolds. Apparently he's a nightmare. He's constantly riffing, which is fine, but it means you get hours and hours and hours of virtual nonsense.
Yeah.
And they hit that one golden thing. And but I know like a lot of writers though, they don't particularly like it when they go off script.
As a playwright, I have watched as people have rewritten my plays on stage. Like I've sat in the audience and just watched as people have deliberately changed my words. And
does that inspire or hurt?
It depends on where the piece is, because there have been a couple of times where, you know, I have done a show and I've watched rehearsals and I've watched, you know, or I've written a show and I'll watch it in rehearsals and we'll get it on its feet. And, you know, show changes the minute there's an audience in front of it. Like there is that added conversation that happens, and you see what works and you see what doesn't. And especially when I've taken stuff to the fringe festivals, I will always do rewrites on a script afterwards, and 99% of the time, the changes that I'm making are changes that were made during the run, something that an actor found. But you know, there have been times though when I'm like, okay, this script is set. I'm very happy with where the script is. Just say the fucking words.
Yeah,
and they can't do it. Difficult. You know, and they can't or won't do it. And at that point, it drives me insane. So. You know, I think it just depends on the kind of conversation it depends on the state of the piece, and it depends on the preference of the collaborators involved. You know,
that makes sense. So think about that. You made me think of it just a second ago. If you're acting, would you rather be on set with someone that does Stanley Kubrick and takes 80, 90, 100 different takes, or would you rather Clint Eastwood, where he's notorious for one and done? Do you think there's a Do you?
I think I don't think that. Well, I would love to be one and done. I really would. At the same time, I'm no Kubrick, but when I do my own self tapes, I'm like, I'm gonna get this done in 2, and it'll be 10 takes. You know, because shit's always gonna happen. You know, so I want to lean towards the fewer is better. But I know in practicality, and if I'm being honest with myself, that I know that I do multiple takes for everything. And that is, you know, like, yeah, I have tons of unused footage and screw ups and everything. At one point, it would be fun to actually put together like a blooper reel from all of my auditions. Yeah. But, you know, I do think that there is a happy medium. I really do. A friend of mine was a writer on Only Murders in the Building. And
season 3 trailer just came out today. I need to watch it.
I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. Speaking of Paul Rudd, I'm very excited for it. But I remember him telling me that, you know, he was standing around on set. He was one of the few writers that was like, you know, like on set when things were going. And he said that that Steve Martin in particular was great. He would make sure that he would do at least 2 takes by the book and be like, you got it. You happy? You know, you know that he'd do it as written, and then he would go, "Do we have time for me to try something?"
Yeah,
and you know, that's when he would do his improvisational, like, let me fuck around and see what we could find here. Let's go digging for some gold in them Dar Hills. And the writers were like, you know, we got what we wanted, and then sometimes, you know, you'd have someone who could elevate that material and do something else with it, but I think he did it right, because he always made sure that they had what they needed before he went to see if they could find something else that they wanted, you know, and that I think is doing it right, you know. And I mean, when you've got a comic genius like Steve Martin, are you really going to tell the guy no? But he's not so presumptuous to think to behave like, well, I know better than the writers.
He still respects the other artists. I mean, like respect another actor, you should respect the writer. You should expect the guy doing the lights, for God's sake, because that's a skill. You know,
I might be throwing people my age under the bus, but do you think that's partially a generational thing?
No, I think it's an ego thing. I think it's an ego thing, because you want to know why? Because I've seen enough old shitheads to know that it's not just it's not Zoomers. It's not just Zoomers. It's everybody. And I've seen people in my own generation who, like, in small theater, I've seen people like take my words and be like, oh, I could do this so much better, and then proceed to mangle them, directors and actors alike, to the point where at one point I was like, say what I wrote on that fucking page or I'm going to pull the show, because if you want to put up your own show, you want to do your own thing, that's fine, but don't have my name on this.
It loses what it was at a certain point.
Yeah, exactly. So,
also, do I sound like Paul Rudd? I don't. Anyway,
that's never cool.
I would say many things about you, Harris, but I don't know if I'd ever accuse you of that.
I don't think so. I wish I had Paul Rudd's vampirism, though. Let me be 45 and
right?
still look like I'm my age right now.
Well, he's over 50 now.
Yeah.
I know, and he looks like that.
That's not right. What?
I mean, friends 30 years ago.
My question is, where's he finding the blood of virgins in this town?
Yeah, where's that adrenochrome or whatever the things are?
Oh God!
Adrenochrome.
Yeah.
Dear Lord. Oh, that was such a funny conspiracy thing that went around for a bit.
Oh God! The sad part is it's still going, and they're.
Oh yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to stop technically.
No, because anti-Semitism is real and it's awful, and it's Ugh, God, gross.
Just hatred in the world is just ridiculous and just what a waste of time.
And rampant.
Yeah, people get so angry about the most ridiculous things. I'm so like, it's either none of your business or really does it hurt you? And my mom always says, look, and I take all my advice from my mom, obviously, because she'd beat me otherwise.
As you should.
It's just like, does it hurt you? If it doesn't hurt you, don't bother. Don't worry about it. What you're doing, you're hurting yourself. All you're doing is putting your own heart rate up. Just leave it.
Yeah.
And I try and live my life like that. If it doesn't bother me, doesn't hurt me, leave it.
There's a lot of, there's the problem is that there's a lot of money in outrage.
Oh, hate clips. YouTube.
Fear mongering does well.
I mean, there's a whole news network built around that. So, I mean, yeah. Anyway.
If I wanted 100,000 subscribers, just go start yelling at stuff.
Yeah.
It's quite easy to do if you've got no morals and don't care.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
All the news networks do it, but there's a good chunk of YouTube that does it too.
My God, yeah. Oh my God, and it's worse because it's uncensored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can just lie on YouTube, and really, there isn't a lot to stop you. I mean, you just got to be careful you avoid certain keywords and things, and you won't get pulled up on it.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. And everybody knows the workarounds. That's the thing is that the ways to get around it.
Don't cuss too early in the videos. Do not cuss at all in that first minute.
Yeah.
And there are two C words they don't like. The other word for the Rona, and then
and
see
that
you
word
next Tuesday.
keeps saying.
See you next Tuesday, of course. That's my favorite one. A little more British,
Although the Australians get away with that one just fine. So
they do just fine. If you're Carl Urban, you can say it anywhere, all the time, no matter
word. It's basically like the word "the" for Carl Urban. Just like
legit. Carl Urban's my spirit animal. I strive to be Carl Urban on a daily basis.
It's been brilliant in everything he's ever done. Did you see that Almost Human he did? They only did about 10 episodes, maybe. It's one of the best sci-fi shows, and they got cancelled.
If you need someone just absolutely solid to be in like a franchise and like make your franchise, first of all, bankable. Second of all, just like have that good of an actor that's just solid no matter what, but also brings all the other actors around them like up to that kind of level, if not even better. Carl Urban. Just Carl Urban.
Safe bet.
He's a great actor.
He's just excellent in everything he does.
Likable. He's just one of those. He's one of those actors you'd go, I'd have a beer with Carl Urban, and we'd get on great. And people, actually generally think it just seems like you would say hello to him if you saw him, sort of thing. I'm not sure I would. If I saw Robert De Niro, I would just go, Robert De Niro. I wouldn't go and say hello to him.
I think I've told you before. I sat sat behind Wes Anderson at a Japanese little restaurant out here one time, and I was kind of like, I'm a Texas boy, surprise. And Wes Anderson is Texan as you can be, while being that like artistic, I guess. So I was like,
he's from Austin, isn't he?
No, he's I think I think he's Houston. I want to say
Okay.
he's either Dallas or Houston. He's one of the two. Because there are some, I forget. Because Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson are from the other one, which usually Dallas and Houston are little rivals, so they're kind of like, but they bridge the gap together.
Sort of like the AL West right now, So
yeah.
Objects in mirror are closer than they appear.
Don't get me started on objects in mirror. You saw me at the beginning. I screwed up already. I demirrored myself so I wouldn't be as confused. Just to be safe.
I thought you said Wes Craven. Did you not say Wes Craven? Who you sat behind?
Oh,
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. I always do that. I did that last time.
I think so. Wes Craven's great, but I do prefer Wes Anderson just because it's Wes Anderson.
I do like me some Wes Anderson. The guy.
Houston.
I enjoy his visual signature. The shot compositions. He's like our generation's Kubrick in that regard. Where every shot's a painting.
Totally.
Every frame a painting.
Barbie almost reminded me of it in a lot of ways. It's not, of course, like as picturesque, but there are certain spots where like you could just take that frame and you might think it's a Wes Anderson film in a way. I think part of that is because they did the little 1940s, 1950s thing with all the Barbie houses where none of them are actually like full on houses. You can kind of pan out and put some cables somewhere and toss them out the side, or Barbie can go down her slide to her pool right next to her house, something like that. But it's like a 1940s facade type set,
Nice.
I like the way they handled that.
I'm very excited to see it. I think that at first I wasn't that interested. I was like, oh, a Barbie movie, it's going to be for kids. But I think the more I've heard people talk about it, the more I'm like, all right, now I feel like that this is something that deserves attention. So
Gerwig and Baumbach are just perfect. They're too damn good. The movie's not as great necessarily as I wanted it to be, but it's not saying it's not great because it is. I think it does the best whenever it's just like a human existentialism kind of thing where it's like, what's it like to be a human? It pisses people off where it's like matriarchy versus patriarchy, but like it has to go that deep on both sides and kind of like piss you off on both sides to bring that point home at the end. I don't know if everybody's getting that point at the end, but
it's confusing a lot of young children.
It's confusing a lot of people
coming out going, "What the hell was that?"
It ain't your teenage Barbie movie. It is an existential human crisis, and the very final line in the film is fucking hilarious.
I'm very excited to go check this out now.
It's gonna be dope.
Yeah. It's good. It's like a Teddy Ruxpin film that explores racism or something. I don't. It's just
well now we're gonna have. But now Mattel is cracking open the vault here and pulling out every IP that they've got, and they're gonna be putting. Now their goal is to put out more movies like this. So this will be interesting.
I wonder the route too that they're gonna take, because Gerwig's already said she has no plans for a sequel or anything, and I didn't really expect her to. She doesn't seem like someone that's like, give me a sequel, I want to do this, even though she just
not everything has to be a franchise,
Yeah.
Well, it worked for Hasbro. Oh no, it didn't.
Yeah. I still want to see. I was about to say I want to see another D&D movie because I love the Dungeons and Dragons movie. I loved it so much. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And you got to realize that I was there in costume for the first D&D movie back in 2000 and was sorely disappointed. Like I was like, oh my god. It was. Oh
come on! When he drops to his knees, no snails.
Oh God!
Come on!
Yeah, no. Oh, come on! Yeah. But I'm of the mind that D&D or Dungeons and Dragons shouldn't be a movie. It should actually be an anthology series, a la American Horror Story.
I like that idea. Well, I'm not familiar enough with it. Dungeons and Dragons is the thing that I would absolutely adore, which I've never let myself get fully into it because I would devote life to it, kind of shit,
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a professional dungeon master. That's actually like one of my hustles from when I was in the here's my books, my dice, that's literally when our theater was closed down for 18 months because of the Rona. My wife got a job in education doing remote education sales, and I became a professional game master and was running games for people online around the world. And
you still do that on Mondays, right?
Yeah, I still do that. I still have a Twitch stream every Monday night. And It's been very intermittent as of late, but we're picking back up and getting back into it. We've actually played 2 consecutive weeks again for the first time in a while, which was fantastic. Like all my guys, we've missed each other, so we're having a lot of fun again. But I make decent money doing that. But yeah, D&D, like, because of the nature of the way campaigns work, how it's ongoing storytelling, this would I see in the chat here, Andrew, if you think that the movie had too much forced comedy, it's literally it's literally, that movie was literally the embodiment of somebody's home game. So yeah, if it's forced comedy, it's because the players were being awkward, behind the screen. And if you understand how the dynamics work, it's pretty brilliant. So I thought that it worked on multiple levels because of that.
Yeah, it's always opinion in it, but I genuinely thought it
totally
was
fair.
My wife came out actually and went, "That was brilliant. You made me come to this. I was dragged to it." And it's not my wife's normal cup of tea. But it was just a genuinely enjoyable movie. It was well written. It was well acted. Everything about it was, I thought, it's perfect cinema movie.
Yeah, epically high stakes, and epically stupid heroes. And just you put them all together and just see what happens. And that's literally they joke about how every campaign starts out with everybody trying to be Lord of the Rings, and it devolves into like Adventure Time, or something else ridiculous. And that's
dragons going down, chasing you down a big mountainside or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that if they were going to do D&D right, they would structure any sort of show very much like an actual campaign, where each season is its own self-contained story, and then you could do your own MCU big crossover after you reach a certain point and have all these multiple plot threads come together in an epic story. Maybe that's when you do your feature film. Like I have ideas and thoughts about this, because this would be there's two IPs that I would kill to work in and be a part of, and that's Star Trek and that's D&D. Like those are my two dream IPs, to be a part of. And I think that Dungeons and Dragons is not served by having just a 2-hour film. The stories are too big. You look at Critical Role, each Critical Role campaign is hundreds and hundreds of hours. Each episode is 3 to 4 hours long each week. That's 4 hours of new content every week for these shows, and just ongoing storyline. And each campaign is about 130, 140 episodes. So you multiply that by 3 or 4, like literally almost 1,000 hours of story. You can't have that condensed down into 2 hours without sacrificing what makes it. I think you could do it in 10 hours. You could do it in 12 hours. You could do it, ideally 22 episode season. Go back to big things, and you have lots of character development, and you have, because you have all these side plots, you have B plots, you have side quests, you have shit getting derailed, and you have all these things that create stakes, and you have all these things that make it richer. And then you have a big epic payoff, that would be the idea. Both. I am both. I love me Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds. I would love to be on Strange New Worlds. If I had my pick of the shows, I would want to be on Strange New Worlds. But the crossover episode that just dropped over the weekend was flippin' brilliant, and I loved every second of it. My nerd heart just exploded with it. I think that
stupidity.
I just don't have the voiceover experience to feel like I could reliably be on something like Lower Decks. So, and they actually have a very, very specific style. They even joke about it in the crossover episode that everybody is that they acknowledge the fact that they're very loud and very hyper specific and very fast talking. So I feel like I'd be better served on SNW than Lower Decks. So
or Legacy, when we get Legacy, there you go.
Yeah, I really want Legacy. I actually ran into Todd Stashwick at Comic-Con. Well, I didn't actually say hi to him or anything, but we made eye contact and I nodded, and then he turned and walked away. So but I ran into him at one of the hotels. So that was
He's
cool.
A glorious geek as well. I love Todd.
Oh yeah.
Glorious.
I was like, dude, I would DM for him anytime. He'd probably wreck my table. That'd be amazing. So
that'd be hilarious. I'd see. When you said crossover for a second, I was thinking that's is that the musical episode? I remember that
No,
they did that
musical
little live
episode's in 2
action thing.
Yeah,
That's
musical
2
episode
weeks.
comes out August 3rd. The trailer for that.
Oh,
just
okay,
dropped.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was sooner than later because everyone's talking about it so much.
Because
Well, because the trailer just dropped and everybody's freaking out about it. So
Yeah.
that
It didn't look great.
it's gonna be dope. So very excited for that.
Hopefully.
I'm not looking forward to it, but we'll see. But I just don't like musicals. That's
fair.
That's my issue with it. I don't like musicals.
I'm an old school musical theater geek, so I'm all about like, okay, if I think that I've seen it, ever since Buffy did it. I feel like a lot of people have tried to pull it off and have failed. I do have faith though that Star Trek could do it right, and I'd be very intrigued to see what happens here. So
one of the because I've talked about this a couple of times on my channel, and one of the things I've sort of think of why I think people are annoyed is because we only get 10 Strange New Worlds episodes. So it's like Star Trek real estate is quite valuable. We get 10 hours sort of thing. Yeah. We've already had one quirky episode. We've had the crossover episode. We've had a comedy episode with the Spock episode where he becomes human. Mm-hmm. Both brilliant episodes, don't get me wrong. The only bad episode we've had this season so far was the first episode, was not very good. But other than that, they've been brilliant. But I just think it's one too many quirky episodes. I'd quite like a Star Trek episode now. I'd quite like 3 proper Star Trek episodes, run us into next year, and do a musical, or do a surprise 11th episode, which is the musical. And then I don't think so many people would have been not so annoyed.
Well, but this is why more episodes are better. If and this is why you need more writers, and this is why you need to pay the writers, and this is why, I feel like that, I watched Star Trek: The Next Generation again during the pandemic, and we got through most of Deep Space Nine as well. Those were 22, 24 episode seasons, 26 episodes sometimes, and not every episode was a home run, but they were. But there was a lot of damn good television there, so you can't tell me that more episodes means lower quality. That's not. I don't think that's the case. I think you get the right writers, you get the right groups, you get more people involved. And you're gonna, then it doesn't feel like they're trying to cram 50 pounds of shit in a 10-pound bag, So
every season of television nowadays feels like it's trying to be both lengthwise and I guess gravitas-wise, like a mini series, and you don't have to do that. It's just like just enjoy what you're writing.
We kind of missed the filler episodes as well, because when the filler episodes are done quite well, just to give the actors a bit of a break, or let the writers catch up a little bit. We have this little filler episode, but when they were done well, because I remember we were talking about Stargate did a couple of filler episodes, but what they did was there was a new president, and he was being told that the reports from all these missions, and then they'd have little flashbacks, and there was such a brilliant. I'm going to go watch. This is great. Remember, but Star Trek would have the odd little filler episode, or an episode that was just based around one character, or this sort of thing, and it gave that actor that actor got that's my episode sort of thing, and get a bit of development and stuff. And those episodes, they're lacking because there isn't enough time. Like I say, and I just think 3 quirky, funny episodes in Star Trek is, when you've only got 10 episodes, it's one too many.
That makes
but
sense.
It might still be funny.
There were 13. Would it be like the happy medium, kind of? I don't know. I like that 13 through 16 a lot, because 22 to 26 can be a lot and end up with a couple.
I think it depends on the format of the show. I think because Next Generation was for so much of it was Monster of the Week, and it felt like every season, especially towards the end there, it was like, oh, this is the episode this season where Troy loses her powers. This is the episode where Loxana shows up. This is the episode where this is the Klingon episode, and they always have like these fallbacks of like, okay, this is the time that we're doing that this year, but. I feel like 10 can be, when it's Monster of the Week, you can do as many of these as you want, as long as you got inspiration. When you're trying to do this ongoing serialized episodic storytelling where it's one ongoing storyline, that's when you get to 8 to 10 episodes. And like, what was it? It was the first Daredevil on Netflix, like watching that. It was like some brilliant stuff, some amazing stuff. That hallway fight is still top 10 all time of just like one of the best television fights on television. Guaranteed.
Amazing. The Punisher hallway fight too.
Yeah. But I remember people being like, "Oh my God, it's so good," except for like these 2 episodes in the middle just feel like a slog, like they just had to write something to fill it in, And so I think that if you're trying to tell a big overarching storyline, you got to make sure that you have enough material to fill out the episode order and have it be good. And that's where you can start feeling like you can see the stress lines and you start seeing the fatigue.
That was the thing with Picard season 2. They were saying basically that was 3 episodes of Star Trek spread over 10 episodes. And you can actually see it that at times you're thinking, they don't know what they're doing with this. They're doing an episode that they're just padding time a little bit.
Yeah. So but that's the trouble when you have like the ongoing serialized stuff. But I think that and then there are times where I'm friends with one of the head folks on Ted Lasso, and they said that with season 2, they had a 10 episode order. And they wrote the 10 episodes and they started shooting the 10 episodes. And then Apple came back and said, "Oh, you're getting 2 more." They're like, "Hold on. No. Like, I don't think you understand. We wrote, how are we going to do this?" So they basically wrote 2 bottle episodes. And one of them was the Christmas episode. And the other one was Beard's Night Out. And the Christmas episode, wholesome fun. Everybody loved it. And I know that Beard's Night Out was very divisive. People either loved it or they hated it,
I found it a bit boring. I don't think I watched all of it. It was just a bit like, this feels like an hour.
Well, Brendan Hunt, who played Coach Beard, he's an LA theater guy, and I've seen and he was the guy who I want to say that he was one of the guys who was heading up writing that episode. If you've ever seen any of his plays or if you know him at all, like that episode was just like so rewarding because it was basically like him. And it was hilarious and absurd and insane. I mean, he wrote a Peanuts parody where he played Pigpen, an unnamed Pigpen, and hula hoop naked. Like that was he did that at the Fringe Festival in 2013 out here, and he he's already a little twisted and a little out there, and just getting to see him do an episode that expanded on this character and did it in such an interesting way and did it in such a Brendan way. It was like, you don't get those opportunities very often, but I thought it was very wise of them to do bottle episodes that kind of give you a little bit more insight into the characters, or give you some feel good moments or whatever, then try to stretch material and shoehorn them in.
Instead of cut 4 episodes or 2 episodes into 4. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I thought that was the good thing to do, because and this is Star Trek, X-Files, all these shows, they used to be Monster of the Week, episodic, every episode self-contained, and you have a big reset at the end of it, which kind of kills interesting character development when you have big character moments, and it's like, oh no, it's just like this is not going to be a lasting change for the character. I really feel like that we had a couple of storylines in Next Generation where you had carryover, obviously the Borg, and obviously you had recurring characters like Q and things like that, but you didn't have truly serialized storytelling until we got to later seasons of Deep Space Nine, mostly because that wasn't part of Roddenberry's vision, So, and and Deep Space Nine kind of, especially in the later seasons, kind of fucked off and went off and did whatever it wanted to, whereas Voyager was still beholden to what the vision was. That's why Year of Hell was only 2 episodes instead of a full season, So like there's I think that there's something to be said for both styles of storytelling. I think that when you have to decide, like everybody wants to do the serialized ongoing stuff at the moment, and that's really where we get these shorter mini series, 6, 8, 10 episodes. But we're now missing the job opportunities that come from the bigger sprawling Monster of the Week, like self-contained opportunities. That's not the style of storytelling we're doing right now. So
well, just think about that. Someone mentioned Game of Thrones was only 10 episodes a season, and that's because it kind of follows that. It's not a miniseries by any means, but like it's not a book per season either, but it's along those lines where they have a full narrative. They're telling the narrative. They know the amount of time they need. They make it make sense in that time that they know that they need, etc.
Until you notice when they started slowing down, because like, well, we're coming right up on that line when we're George, we're pulling up on you. When's the next book? What are we doing?
Right, man.
Was
Right.
it 8 episodes and 7 episodes, or was it 7 episodes and 6? I think it was 8 and 7, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
And the budget just went up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
So there was an element to that as well. But they did not know what to do.
I think when you're basing a show on an IP like that, where you're dealing with a pre-existing thing that isn't done yet, that's a whole different set of circumstances you got to work under. But that is another fine example of, like some of the conditions that we're dealing with, because one of the most popular things to do in Hollywood is adapt a proven book or book series to the screen. I thought that I was so happy to see his Dark Materials get a mini series, or 3 seasons that were actually like, in accordance with the books, because let me tell you, I saw the movie and I was like, that's when I realized that you can't do justice to a novel in most cases, or like an ongoing series like that with just a 2-hour movie. There's just not enough real estate there.
You can't. Lord of the Rings, I think for lack of a better book adaptation that comes to mind, I mean, there's obviously great ones. I love Jojo Rabbit, but that's not truly a book adaptation. And, there's a half a dozen other things that can come up to mind. But Lord of the Rings shows that, like, hey, if you want to truly adapt something right, take your time. And and for true Tolkien people, like, the movies really aren't all that, like, because they drop some stuff out. I still love them to death, and I'm not like Tolkien nerd, but God,
I thought Peter Jackson nailed it, and as much as I love me some Guillermo del Toro, I did not. I didn't like what he did with The Hobbit, because The Hobbit is my all-time favorite book.
Well, Guillermo del Toro left The Hobbit. That was PJ again.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Yep.
If we would have had Guillermo on there,
that's the thing about stretching it out, though, isn't it? The Hobbit book is that thick. Lord of the Rings is that thick, but they still got 6 hours out of the Hobbit. But I think
that's a good allegory for what we're talking about with the 10 to like the 16, 18, 20 episode seasons. If you're following a narrative that's already been made, fit it to where you need it to fit. 8, 10, 12 episodes, perfect. But if you're stretching that stuff out, you dilute it. Same thing with not having material and just kind of,
or you don't give it enough room to breathe, and therefore don't do it justice either.
The material should dictate how long this thing is, rather than executives going, I want 3 films, and the creators going, we've got material for 2. But I think there's a definite skill about taking a book and turn it into a movie or because if you're too if you try to follow the book too much, a lot of books they tend to have the finale, and then they have that tail off, and they explain things, and everybody goes home, that's how books are generally formatted. Movies don't really work as well. So I think there is a skill to what you leave out, what you put in, what you emphasize, because it's a different medium. Movies are different to books. I know it's going to shock a lot of people in the audience, but they're different. And I think there's definitely a skill to how do you adapt a book. But then people will get annoyed. It's either they're too strict and they follow the book too much and it's boring or whatever, or you varied and you wandered off the book and I'm just like, it's because it's different. It's
I agree, and I think that there's things you can do justice in certain mediums, and there are things that you can't. I don't appreciate blatant money grabs like splitting up The Hobbit into 2 part, or like the way they did, like
2. I can understand 2, but 3 just come on, like
I have thoughts.
Harry Potter. The last Harry Potter. That should have been 1 3-hour movie, not 2 2.5-hour movies.
Well, and split it up and do 2 releases, but then still pay everybody as if it was 1 film.
Yes, because they filmed it back to they filmed it like 1 film.
Pay it as if it was 1 film, but release it in 2, so you get double the box office. Shady Hollywood accounting. Anyway,
not just
bringing it back around.
2 DVD sales, 2 Blu-ray sales, 2
2 downloads, 2 digital downloads, everything. It's just cha-ching it all the way down to the bank, and anyway.
And then give us a TV series that is apparently going to be the same. Well, The Lord of the Rings as well, getting a TV series that is still in universe and not a remake. It's not going to be a remake. How's that going to work? Okay, that's going to annoy people as well, but we'll see.
All the new line stuff's going to be interesting. But Laura, I think Game of Thrones is the perfect example of that, where you can give a dozen characters, 24 characters, decent to great character development in 10 episodes still, if the material calls for that. If it's not, and you're coming up with it as you're going, it might be a little bit harder to do that. You might be able to do that in later seasons, but you have to give time to breathe, I guess, earlier on for some of those new things, which helps with longer episodes and things like that. So yes and no, but if it comes from material already written, it's doable, very doable. You said earlier, Greg, just the way you'd like to do a Dungeons and Dragons anthology series. That's you explained exactly how I want them to do Mass Effect if they ever bring.
Nice.
That's you can't adapt those games for 2.5, 3 hours. You just can't. Build up the world and then bring in your little MCU tentpole film. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Do that thing. Do it again. Boom. Another movie. Do it again. Boom. Another movie. Something like that. But while you were talking about all that, have you heard of Joe Of course, you know Joe Manganiello and all of his D&D and stuff. But have you heard that he wants to do Dragonlance, that book?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think I'm not much of a Dragonlance guy. You know, I know that it appeals to a very, you know, it appeals to a select group of fantasy genre geeks, and that's awesome. You know, I'm much more of a Forgotten Realms guy because that's kind of like the default world right now. I think that you know, that's very Tolkien-esque. I feel like that would be the easiest way to relate in, but you know, if you want to do Dragonlance and you got everybody's riding a fucking dragon and you got all these big dragons and you got dragon fights and you got all this, and if you like dragons with the dragons and the side of dragons, and Dragonlance is where it's at. So cool, you know. But what I would really love to see,
that sounds fun.
Yeah, but the one that I really want to see, Dark Sun. Okay, if you don't know this is like D&D does Mad Max. Okay.
What?
Yeah.
See, I'm not familiar with any of these books. All I know is Dragonlance is like one of the more popular ones, and that's the one that Manganiello wants to make. But
yeah, and do more power to him, dude. And you know what? If someone's got the stroke to get that done, he might be one of them. So I think that I know that he's pitching a series right now. I know there's somebody else that's pitching a series right now. And that's the thing, is that there are folks who are like, yes, let's do the ongoing series. What I'm hoping is that they don't make the mistake of just limiting it to one set of characters and one story. If you did there's enough different campaign settings and there's enough different opportunities for storytelling, and the world is all fascinating enough that we could see D&D done in an American Horror Story fashion, where it's every season's a new story, and you bring back some of the cast as new characters, and you bring in new actors and everything else. Like, I feel like that's for something that is as sprawling and as open concept as Dungeons and Dragons is. I feel like that's the way to do it. And then, you know, and we even see this right now with all the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. All the Star Wars shows are leading up to the big crossover event that's going to be the movie, you know, and it's like, that's what you do. That's what you fucking do. You do the you establish the characters and you figure out who the fan favorites are. Then you write a fucking movie around the fan favorites, and as they're tying up something that's been like the common thread between each of the things, and kaboom, there's your money, there's your formula. Hire me to run your fucking show, guys. Come on, let's go. Like
they might need you.
I'm down. I'm the nerd that can get this shit done. Like I'm hereby throwing my hat in the ring for consideration here.
I'll be your backup.
I love it.
Because I just know anything Star Wars. Just characters, anything. I love that stuff. I really want them to do well with it. Do you have hope for Ahsoka?
Here's the thing. I deliberately don't watch trailers and things for like upcoming series and things that I'm interested in. I don't like having those spoilers. I know that Thrawn's going to be in there. Like, I mean, that's obvious because that was revealed in Boba Fett, you know, like, so I know a couple of things. I know about some of the crossovers between the Clone Wars and Rebels and the animated series and things like that. We're going to see some of the live action or some of them in live action, just like we did at the end of Mandalorian. Like, I know that there's going to be certain things that happen, but largely I'm trying to stay ignorant because I still like having that childlike wonder of holy shit. Like, my wife has pictures of me when I saw, you know, like she actually got a photo of me and my jaw hitting the floor when Luke Skywalker showed up. I think I could say that safely now, right?
People are still pissed off at season 3 over even thinking about season 2 nowadays.
Yeah. So, but what, you know, like I like being amazed, and I like being surprised. So I try to avoid trailers, and I try to like keep away from stuff. And in this case though, I did see the trailer for the next season of Lower Decks, which I'm super excited for. But I don't feel like that in certain things it's okay, because it's like, okay, well, this is silly, I'm not heavily invested. But my Star Wars, I don't want to know what's coming, because I want to be like blown away. So yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, House. I've got a run next. I've got a previous engagement, so I'm not sure.
You're talking musicals, aren't you?
We are going to be talking Star Trek, but he's going to be waiting for me. So I've been absolutely amazed to speak to you. I would love to catch you again and geek out on Star Trek at some point.
Absolutely, man. I would love that. I would absolutely love that, Jay.
We will get together through Harris and sort that, because that'd be amazing. But I don't know how this is going to work, because I think we're going to have 2 live streams at the same time on Star Trek very shortly. So let's see if that breaks the internet. Harris, I'll try not to actually end the stream like I did last time. Go out. I
think. Oh wait, okay. So everybody here, real quick. I'm removing sidetrack from streaming over here.
Don't stress about it. I think we can go live twice, but it's fine.
Go to MCubed or go to the musical, whichever you're feeling.
Go to MCubed and subscribe, and you can watch the Star Trek episode later. All right.
You heard it from the horse's mouth itself. Or not the horse's mouth, the gopher's. Sorry, I had to.
The gopher's mouth. You promised.
Some guy this past Sunday called me a fox, Jamie a gopher, Matt, our other British guy on Sidetrack, a badger, and then Stormy, our resident rocket scientist who lives in New Mexico. What was Stormy? Oh, the wise old owl. We also call him Danny Gandalf, because he looks like Gandalf and Danny DeVito put together. So
yeah. I got to run, guys. So much. Thank you so much. Really cool. I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, thank you so much, man.
Remove destination. I think we're good.
Okay. Oh, yep, he's gone.
Save changes. Oh, yeah. We did just lose a couple people, but hopefully they'll be popping back in for a second.
No worries. No worries.
Yeah. So what were we saying? We just Dragonlance.
Yeah, Dragonlance. There's this setting called Dark Sun, which is basically the world has been reduced to a desert, and you're trying. It's extreme survival. In a hopeless world where the gods have abandoned the world, and if you can cast arcane magic, then you're basically put to death. And like it's a really, really intense, really flavorful. Like Mad Max, but with dragons. Yeah. So yeah. So I would.
Uh-oh.
I would love which is and then of course Planescape right now, which is getting a new campaign setting released very soon. Planescape is your universe hopping. So if D&D wanted to jump into that, there's your anthology crossovers. You do Planescape, where you can have all these things interconnect, and overlap.
That's the way of doing. I mean, because multiverse is popular and huge right now, of course, but it's also a little much, I think, for general audiences.
We're all getting fatigued here, where everything is layers upon layers upon layers and of everything, and the same actors keep showing up playing the same characters or different versions of the same character, because death means nothing now, and there's no stakes or it's getting tough. I love me some MCU. Don't get me wrong, I love it. Like I stick that shit in my veins all day long, but there are certain aspects of it that it kind of lessens the impact when it's. But then again, they've been bringing people back from the dead in comic books like since the jump. So
where there's a will, there's a way, and they always tend to find a way. I like it though, because I don't like all the new MCU stuff, but I like the mold. Well, I don't dislike a lot of the MCU stuff, but typically it's faltered as of recent. Guardians 3, thankful for it. Secret Invasion, I've been enjoying. It's just not enticing or exciting per se.
Because all those stuff, because Guardians dropped right at the top of Fringe, I haven't seen Guardians yet. Very excited to go catch it, but I think we're gonna have to wait till streaming, because I don't think it's running anywhere else right now. But I definitely want to see Guardians 3, and then I'm gonna get Secret Invasion. But we did catch up and watch Wakanda Forever and Quantumania recently, and I feel like that, yeah, there is a little bit of a fatigue with the movies. I feel like that they're a little, you could see the formula, you know.
It's they just wear it on their sleeves now, and like Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, I think wore its formula on its sleeves.
Yeah,
but played around with it because obviously they're Dungeons and Dragons, and they were kind of able to like, hey, we're playing a game. This is what the game feels like when you're playing it. So yes, there's a formula, but you're a participant in said formula versus just viewing for the sake.
I think what D&D did right was there was if you ever played the game, you understand that there's levels to that movie. Because what we're literally watching, we're literally beholding through the eyes of the characters, the player characters. We're watching people play the game, and nothing was more perfect in that setup.
Oh, did we lose him?
Character in the paladin could kill everything. Oh, all right. You had this dungeon master player character. Coming in and like giving all the plot hooks and kicking all the ass, and it's the Mary Sue character, but being like, okay, well, you have to cross this bridge, and in order to do it, it's clearly a puzzle or a challenge, and it's going to be this big elaborate thing, and then they just go boop and fuck it up for everybody. Like that's like the most D&D thing I've ever seen, is that you spend, because I've done that. I've spent hours crafting encounters just to have them wrecked in 30 seconds because the players did something I did not expect at all. Like that's literally like quintessential D&D, and then like the jokes in the graveyard about speak with dead and leaving the one guy, like, it was perfect.
That part of the trailer was great because I did watch that trailer beforehand and that cracked me up, but then I saw it in the theater and I was just like, they just ruined the entire joke. And then they doubled down on the joke, and I just about like I think I like shat myself in happiness. It was so funny. Like that was just
it's one of those where it came all the way. It went so far, it came back around again. Yep, it was great.
It full circled.
Well, I also appreciated the attention to detail that they had in the combats, where they were very like. Like at one point I saw that they were fighting what's her name, the wizard, at the end of it, and she got hit and one of her spells disappeared, and I was like, oh, blew her concentration check, like it's like you could see the mechanics working, and I'm watching this fight play out exactly the way I would have expected it to play out if we were playing the tabletop game like that. I was like, okay, cool, that is a level of fidelity that I would not have expected from this. And I was like, that's when these guys, the writers, really won me over, because I was like, they paid attention to the details, and it felt like Dungeons and Dragons watching. It felt like playing it, And I like, my wife is not a D&D person. She doesn't like making funny voices with her friends, in spite the number of times I've asked her to come and do that. But she's like, okay, I kind of get it, after seeing it. So I thought that was cool.
I mean, just from someone who's also never played it but always wanted to. But I know that if I do, I will just. I don't think I would devote time to anything else.
I'll run a game for you.
Oh, don't tell me that, because I'll take you up on it. I have an entire, like, somewhere back here, I have a Skyrim's version of it that they came out with like in 2021 or something.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to put it together. I just haven't done so. Part of it just because it's so freaking complicated. I know I'm gonna have to like read for a day or two just to do it.
And that's by Modifus, right? That's a different company and different system altogether. So that's
Oh yeah,
well,
I think
but the concept
a little more streamlined too, thankfully. But
yeah,
D&D sounds fun, as fun as it does because of its complexities, I think.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that everybody thinks it's complex, and there's tons of books and tons of options and everything. This is just 5th edition right here. I still have my books from 3rd and 4th edition sitting down at the theater in my office. So like the next time you're there, I'll show you the bookshelf. It's a
Studio Stage.
It's Studio Stage. It's in yeah. So but all you really need is you need the player's handbook, and you can run the whole game. You don't need anything else. Everything else is options and ideas. And there's adventures that are pre-written, and there's, characters that are pre-generated, and there's different character options and things like that. But really, to run the game, you need one book, and that's all you need. Yeah. So, hell, they even have that book distilled down into a booklet in the starter set, and the starter set comes with a couple of maps and dice and minis, so like I think they sell the starter set at Target for like $10-15, so like it's a really low barrier for entry to get into it, but then you wind up having like, and that doesn't even include my cases and cases of minis that I have and my bags of dice and stuff. So,
well, okay, just I'm intrigued by this one as well. I just can't let myself even attempt to get into it just because of the scope and of all of it. But how would you compare it to Warhammer? Is it as intensive with like you got to paint your figurines or all that? Are you buying figurines pre-made and stuff like that?
You can play D&D without minis, and you could play it without a mat. You could do with what we call theater of the mind. So they like having minis and stuff for tactical purposes. So this way you can keep track of who's where and everything else. But you don't need that to play.
Yeah.
But Warhammer, you have to have the minis to play. You have to have all this stuff in order to play. I know that there are friends of mine who were, stationed out in Iraq and during the various wars that we've had out there, and they would find improvised materials to play with the Warhammer rules and everything. They'd have the rule books, but they wouldn't have their minis, so they would find different things to stand in, like bullet casings and other things, to be like, oh well, that's that and that's that, and they'd have a tape measure.
That's clever.
Yeah, and it's incredibly clever. I mean, so they could do that. But I think the difference between Warhammer and D&D is that D&D is a storytelling experience, and Warhammer is a tactical battle simulator. So, yeah,
that makes sense. Okay,
yeah,
and I because both sound fun. I don't think I could even attempt to get into Warhammer, mostly because I'm just so like. I'm super anal about like chronology. So like if I can watch something chronologically, I will watch it chronologically. Whether the OG movies of Star Wars are what I should watch first. I'm also a 99 baby, so I'll watch me some Phantom Menace first, I'll work my way to it. I also grew up with the Clone Wars, so now I got all that excuse just to watch all that stuff too,
Yeah, I mean, I know that there are folks who do the make the supercuts of the whole MCU, where everything is shown, it's broken down, scenes are shown in chronological order, and I'm like, that would be something that I would love to behold at one point, but I know that I have to be strapped in there for like a couple of days right now.
That's the thing. I have to like mentally prepare myself before I do something like that, just for the sake of it. It's so much, but it is fun. I never used minis for D&D.
Yeah, you absolutely don't have to. You don't have to. I like having them because, especially because as a professional DM, I run games for a lot of kids, and it helps having the minis there and having the I've actually created foam dungeon tiles and stuff like that I've painted to make look all real and look like stone and stuff, and having these visual props help keep kids engaged. So I like having it for that, but. For most of the time when I'm running games for adults, it's theater of the mind. So, yeah.
That makes sense. Is Sci-Fi Quest says Warhammer is more like Risk?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment of that.
I've never even seen it compared to that, but that makes sense, I guess, logically with what I know, I guess.
Yeah.
I like it. That's cool. A good campaign ultimately comes down to having a good dungeon master. The better the DM, the better the campaign. Well, if you need a good DM.
I mean, I like to think that I'm pretty good. I'm no Matt Mercer, although I used to do karaoke with him back in the day, way back in the day before Critical Role was a thing. So, but I think that, yes, you need to have a good DM that knows how to run a good game and tell a good story. But I think it's also the quality of the players and what the players are there for. I mean, good is subjective, because if you guys are, if everybody's happy and having fun, then you got a good game. It may not be like a critical best-selling novel level of storytelling. It may not be Lord of the Rings level storytelling or movie making. But if everybody's having a good time, then that's what it's about. So,
have you seen Son of a Dungeon on YouTube?
I have not. What is that?
Are you familiar with Corridor Crew at all on YouTube?
No.
Okay, let me just blow your brain here for a second. Let me introduce you to your new favorite thing. So obviously, I guess you're not necessarily like VFX oriented or anything of the sort.
Oh, are these the guys who do their games? And when I've heard of these guys. I have heard of these guys.
Yeah.
I think I ran into one of them at Comic-Con. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This past weekend?
Yeah. I was drinking in one of the hotels with a buddy of mine who works in the geek culture space, and he was telling me about. And this looks dope. Oh, they use Unreal Engine. Okay.
So I guess the just to give you background on Corridor Crew themselves, they've been out in LA, I think, probably 12, 13 years now. And when they first moved out here, it was a bunch of VFX dudes or not a bunch, it was 3 or 4, I guess. They literally lived out of like the studio that they were working out of. Now they still have the studio and it's a lot bigger, yada, yada, and they all have families, et cetera, et cetera. But they started like a really popular YouTube show, I guess, called VFX Artists React, which is just it's so great. You get a lot of really good insight and a bunch of different things. They're not the most amazing, I guess, VFX artists in the world, but they're really good at like breaking apart what makes a shot what and something like that. So you get a lot of good insight with that. They've started having a lot of good guests on. Why can't I remember? Adam Savage has been on there a few times. What's the guy that did the new Terminator, that also did Deadpool. Tim Miller was on there.
Oh yeah, I met Tim Miller at Comic-Con a long time ago before Deadpool was a thing. He was running around showing off the test footage of the Deadpool fight on his phone to people. I was at my booth at Comic-Con. When I was working for the toy company, and at one point I wound up standing between Tim Miller and Zack Snyder as Tim was showing Zack the Deadpool test footage on his phone. And this was like I want to say 2011 or something like that. This was like years and years before Deadpool actually came out. So I was very
on the internet for like 5-6 years before it.
Yeah, because Tim's the one who leaked it. Yeah, well, he's talking about leaks. Yeah, come on. It was we all know this, you know. So, but he was running around the show showing it to anybody and everybody that was listening because he was trying to get backing for it. And I'm so glad that it happened because you know what, an R-rated superhero movie fucking works.
And as much as I love Deadpool, we got Logan because of it. And
yeah, 100%. Which also work of art. Yeah,
work of art. Like I forget about it just because you know everyone wants to talk about Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse, and those are two of my favorite probably like superhero movies ever. I think Into the Spider-Verse might be my favorite Spider-Man. It's that or Spider-Man 2, one of the two. It depends on the day. But I don't know, just. All that comes together and it's great. I kind of lost track of what the hell I was saying there because I was back at the son of a dungeon. Talk about ADD real quick. But yeah, okay.
Legit, yeah.
You've seen it happen 1,000 times to me. You'll see it 1,000 times more. The VFX crew. So okay, that's where we were. We were kind of talking about how they have cool guests and that. So they are a VFX house of their own. They do their own stuff. They'll do like a Saturday React kind of video. They have stuntmen come on. They do that as well. They do have animators, et cetera, et cetera. Good show. Good people. Good stuff. They do their own Sunday thing that's typically like a project they've done on their own. But in the last year or so, they've added Son of a Dungeon where they'll have a full kind of game layout happen. I think they put it on. They have like their own website. They put a bunch of stuff on.
Yeah. I'm looking at them right now, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna get fixated on this. I'm absolutely gonna watch this whole thing.
I won't turn the volume on this just for the sake of it, but just the first couple like shots of it. They play the game.
Yeah, I feel like that they built this in Tailspire because that's a 3D rendering.
Because this is I think the first episode. They have a season 2 now.
Yeah.
And I get this is them actually. Oh, of course. I'm not on the premium account.
Yeah.
Wait for the ads. There we go. It just feels like I think how something like this should. Because this has made me want to play Son of a Dungeon. This has made me want to play Dungeons and Dragons like tenfold what I did before, you know?
Well, anytime you want to play, man, you just holler at me and we'll get it together. So for real.
I don't know what to do, but I'm in.
Okay. Sounds good. I just need like 3 more people. You get me 3 more people. We'll pick a night.
I can do that. I can do that.
Sounds good. We could even stream it if you want.
I'm kidding. I don't know. Yeah. You said what? Did you say that at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, damn. We were on the same page. We might have to just for the sake of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's like an evening stream or something,
yeah,
we're MQ Movies Money Mary Jane over here, so we might do a little Mary Jane added into the back of it.
I mean, wouldn't be the first time that's been people gaming under the influence. That's completely unheard of, Harris. I don't know, what kind of degeneracy you're into here,
I gotta let the people know prior to smoking on the stream sometimes, because you'll see a couple people hop off, but then they're the ones that are like just as interested, and they're like, so what's going on? You just kind of like half try to tell someone because you're not fully able to tell them anything at that point, but it's fun. But yeah, no, they legit have their games, write out a little story, and then spend 3, 4, 5 months animating it. They have people like from their house, like their VFX house, that they're just like, your job is to now animate this.
Good luck.
And it's great. It's so much freaking fun. I wish they'd do it for a slew of things.
Well, I'm bookmarking this. I'm definitely gonna take the time to watch through all that. I'm in the middle of still trying to get caught up on campaign 3 for Critical Role at the moment, but I think this could be a nice palate cleanser. So yeah, it's not 40 or 60 something 3 to 4 hour episodes too. So that makes it a lot easier. Each one looks to be about an hour 10. So that's perfect.
I think they're about that. I think they only have 2 seasons out too.
Yeah. Awesome. I'll burn right through this. That's great.
It's not too shabby.
Okay.
But no, that might be a fun little rabbit hole for you.
Oh yeah. No, anytime I can catch some high quality actual play, that's always a good time. So awesome, man.
Added VFX, like perfect. Well, man, I don't want to keep you as too long. If you need to leave at any point, let me know.
No worries. I actually should head off because I actually have clients I got to get down to the theater and deal with today, so I got to get ready for that, and I have to finish up my my lighting design for the show going to Edinburgh. I got to get that program today because I promised them I have it by end of day, so I got to get that finished up. So. Yeah, but hey, man, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I hope we, help some people learn more about what the strike's all about and what people are looking for. Trying to make happen here. So yeah,
that first 45 minutes we went into it, which was great. And I didn't even ask a question. We literally just talked about it naturally, which was pretty damn fun.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, you put me in front of an open mic, and I'll just let her rip. So yeah.
Well, yes, sir. Damn right. Everybody likes you too. So
thank you. My pleasure. Glad to.
Like I said, to start this off, the jack of all trades, master of most, and
you are very kind, my friend. Thank you so much.
I'm not kind. I'm just not being humble at the moment. I know what you can do. That's all. So if I don't think if anybody is out there to hire people for movies and TV and stuff. Just hire both of us. We're both here. Hello.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got much more experience, but
we'd make a great odd couple. It'll be awesome. So
damn right.
Yeah.
Not as good as you and Jen. I might be purdy, but I'm not that purdy, of course. But you are welcome back anytime, brother. Is there anything else we want to leave people with? You want to give people like your social medias or anything where they can find you?
I'm at Gregory Crafts on pretty much everything. That's GREGORYCRAFTS, like arts and crafts. So you can find me on the socials there. I'm mostly on Instagram these days, but I'm also on Threads now because gave up Twitter. Now it's X. Pardon me.
That's a whole different conversation.
That's a whole different conversation. Like, man, like I said, I got to get to work at one point today. Otherwise I'd sit and we'd go on the whole tear about that. But yeah, I think if you guys want to learn more about what's going on with the strikes and what you could do to help support. First off, if you're in Los Angeles, you don't have to be a member of a union to walk a picket line. And if you're driving by, give them a honk. You see somebody picketing, honk your support. Don't cross the
give
picket
them
line.
Water.
Yeah. Don't cross the picket line. Send snacks, send love, and you can actually find more information. Strike. Hold on a second. Let me find the actual.
Go for it. Click or copy and paste, and you can put it in the comments as well. Or you should be able to.
Hold on a second. I'm trying to find, because both SAG-AFTRA and the WGA have strike sites set up with all the details. SAG-AFTRAstrike.org is the SAG site, has all the details about what's going on here. Boom. All right. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Yes.
And what is it? The Founders Fund? What's it called again?
Oh, well, there's the entertainment. Oh my gosh, Entertainment Community Relief Fund. I want to say. I think it's linked off of here.
Right.
So you can find SAG-AFTRA strike, GA strike, and
down below. And I'm going to put this in the. I'm going to copy and paste it and put that in the description as well.
Absolutely. Let me find the WGA site real fast. I should have had these pulled up earlier. What WGA contract 2023.org. And then they have links to the relief funds for folks, because, as the studios have literally come out and said, they've been quoted in the press as saying that they're not going to come back to the table until writers are losing their houses. They're going to freeze everybody out until their mortgages are past due. People are getting evicted. They're going to wait until we're absolutely desperate to try and break us. And the same thing with the actors, although the joke's on them because the actors are always fucking broke. So, I mean, we ain't got nothing to lose. We don't have any yachts here to give up. So,
but they are dwindling that middle class of writers that much faster now.
Absolutely. The writers are suffering the same fate that the actors did with the disappearance of the middle class. They're trying to turn TV writing into gig work. And, that's not the quality. You're going to watch the quality of shows plummet when somebody's just brought in just to do a brush up, and we didn't even touch AI, which, my God, we
want to come back and do that one day. We got science folks, and Matt tends to be AI side, and I kind of toe the line sometimes. So that might be fun.
I think AI is inevitable, but I think that right now unions have the opportunity. They need to not screw this up the way that they did with streaming networks and residuals. They need to negotiate it now before it becomes a thing, because otherwise we're negotiating from behind, which is why this is such a holdout. And that's why this is something that people aren't going to move on. So, but there's links to the entertainment relief funds in here if you guys want to throw a few bucks in there to help, with the strike assistance. Help striking writers, help striking actors, help them buy some food and pay some rent and, pay their mortgage while they're not getting paychecks. Like, we're going on day 80 something for the writers strike. That's almost 3 months without a paycheck, and a lot of folks saved up beforehand. A lot of folks are doing other work, non-writing work at the moment to try and survive, and going and picketing and continuing the fight, they're trying their best, but I think the other thing that people can do is just find your TV writers and find your actors on social media, comment, reblog, subscribe, whatever, share their content about what's going on the lines and why they're doing this. So if you guys can get out there and amplify that signal, most writers and actors have changed their profile pictures to the strike images, so you'll know who you're dealing with right out the gate. But definitely amplify that content if you can get out there. Give it a like, give it a share, give it a comment. Work the algorithm. Let's get the word out about what's going on here, because the number of people who are out there who don't understand what is happening with the industry and why this is such a critical inflection point for us at the moment. We need this to punctuate the consciousness at this moment, or to break through into the collective consciousness, so people understand what's going on and why.
Just to get the perspectives out there, and a multitude of them. Yeah.
Yep. Because you can't trust anything that comes out of a major conglomerate, network conglomerate, because they're going to take the side of the employer, not the employee. So
they're typically either a subsidiary or a sister company to that same employer. So
yeah, exactly. So they're not going to be impartial. So you got it. I hate to say this, but you got to go to the social medias for the real deal in this case. So
which it works, I guess, to a degree.
Yeah,
but that's where we find ourselves.
Absolutely. So
it's insanity.
Awesome. Harris, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you having thank you, Sci-Fi Quest. I hope to see me on Strange New Worlds too. And when I do, I'll give you a live long and prosper. All right. So
damn right.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you. party it up in Glasgow for us.
Will do. Y'all take care.
See ya. I'm gonna go ahead and end the broadcast. We're gonna put a little outro, and then I'm just gonna end the broadcast.